like I'm floating through the air.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of QuiboCast. My name is Mark Rillen, and this is an introduction cast. We plan to make more improvements as we go along. Casts will be weekly at the start, so please bear with us. We hope to increase those to at least twice per week. But once we've streamlined the process of producing these casts and publishing them, recording them and publishing them, producing them, they will be weekly. As I said, my name is Mark Rillen, and QuiboCast is essentially a YouTube channel that we use to achieve the goals of Quibo Limited, which is a UK registered company. Now, to give you background on myself, I've worked in financial services for roughly 20 years now, both in, but in investment banks, wholesale banks, and consulting firms in New York, London, and Switzerland, and briefly in other countries. So it was fun for those 20 years, but now I think it's time to move on to an opportunity that I'm noticing within cryptocurrencies and the entire blockchain space, and pursuing my own endeavors here while making the world a better place, which is what is the goal of Quibo Limited. And how we plan to do that is by enlightening, enhancing, and empowering people through education, use, and long-term investment. Even long-term is not there, but it's long-term, not day investment, day trading type short-term stuff, of decentralized cryptocurrencies and related digital assets in the blockchain space. So if you go to coinmarketcap.com, basically all the assets it lists under there are the coins that I'm referring to. There's roughly 1,400 of them. I know everybody's talking about Bitcoin, but today Bitcoin it's still a dominant player within this space, but it's a lot less dominant, and that trend is going to continue as time goes on. So I see blockchain as basically what the internet was in the mid-90s. It is a new technology that is going to have a lot of entrants. There's going to be companies that fail in its endeavors, but there will be some that succeed. But overall, the market should take off. And right now, it's about, at the beginning of 2017, it was, I think, about 50 billion, probably a lot less. And then somewhere in the spring, it became to be 100 billion. And as at the end of last year, it was around 600 billion. So, sort of described here, you can see that the chart here basically shows how the progression of that entire market has gone up over time. The linear progression, which I've bounded by floor and ceiling lines, trend lines, upward trend lines. And this graph came from coinmarketcap.com. Now, before I go any further, I just would want to make the disclaimer that what I'm talking about here is just my opinion and shouldn't be considered financial advice. I'm not going to tell you to buy something or advise you to buy something or sell something. I'll just talk about why I think it would be a good investment, in my opinion only. So we go forward, and what I want to talk about is based on that chart that you saw previously, this upward trend. What is essentially going to happen going forward? Well, if we apply Moore's law to this trend, which is initially Moore's law was created relative to the technology behind increasing the number of transistors in an integrated circuit. But this doubling effect that occurred with transistors in a circuit had doubling effects on other technologies, as well as social change, productivity changes, and economic growth. So this doubling effect has an occurrence, and not just within the technology, but other technologies, as well as those technologies being a driving force for economic, social, and productivity change. So Investor Beta gives an example with mobile devices. You can read that for yourself. And what I've done here is these are examples of the other technological changes that have occurred. So like when it comes to bandwidth in your that you receive from your internet connection, you're getting more kilobytes per second per dollar. You're getting double the amount of kilobytes per second per dollar every 21 months or so. So as a result of the technological advances through fiber optics, through wireless, and through other technologies. But and these are other technologies that also have a doubling effect. In the months column represents how long it takes for it to double and the metric involved with that doubling. So what I've done here is I've taken Moore's law and I've expanded it to, well, what is the economic change relative to the Moore's law effect for market cap within the blockchain space or cryptography space. So we can see that there's a doubling effect if we solve for t, as I show you the expression, the equation here, and we solve for t, we get 6.5123 months. I call this a nerd moment. There'll be other nerd moments. There's one more coming. So if I take the 6.5123 months and you can check my number, I double checked it, so I believe that's correct. And you say, well, based on that, what will the market be at the end of 2018? Well, again, plugging in the T that we discovered from the last nerd moment, and we apply it to the new market value based on the end of 2018, which is a 12-month period from now, based on an initial market value of $600 billion from the end of last year, we get $2.14 trillion. So I definitely see that as happening in the blockchain crypto space, digital asset space, by the end of this year, barring a major macro event such as reserve currency collapse or another 2007, 2008 credit crisis. So, barring a macro event, this is definitely what's going to happen. If the macro event does occur, in my opinion, you're going to see a panic sell in all asset classes, and people are just going to run for the hills in their anxiety, and nothing will be spared. But eventually, things will calm down, and you'll see the crypto space bounce back. Now, I can't give you time frames in terms of how that will go, but that, in my opinion, is what will happen if there is a macro event, which I don't think there will be, just if there is. So what is QuiboCast all about? Well, going back to the first part of our presentation, we're trying to make the world a better place by enlightening, enhancing, and empowering people through the education. Let me pause there. The education being us giving our opinions on particular digital assets within the crypto space that we think will be of value, and for you to make that decision if you would want to invest in it going forward. So the education, the use, and long-term investment of decentralized cryptocurrencies and related digital assets in the blockchain space. So when we say long-term investment, how do I empower you through that? We plan to offer a tool. In our next cast, I will introduce it, but just to give you a taste of what it is. This is a long-term investment tool, mind you. Again, not a day trading tool or a short-term investment tool, where once you buy the assets, you record them in buy books, sell books, and transfer books, and then you express them through a dashboard, which gives you your P&L, your market value, and concentrations, which I won't get into the technical side of things right now, but it also will give you trends, and there's other developing things that I'm working on here. So it'll be a living document, and what my hope is that you download it. Some companies offer this for free. Charge for this, but it's something that I am offering for free. And as I said, through your comments and your questions, I hope to have this become a living document where we can improve upon it and get it to where most people are satisfied with it, and as a result, there'll be fewer and fewer questions and nothing but comments, good comments, to the point where everyone's happy with its performance. Finally, just to talk, this thing updates itself every 20 minutes through feeds, but like I said, we'll get into the technical side of the spreadsheet in our next cast, and it will be offered through our website, which we are currently developing. And so hope to have that for you by the time I make my next cast. So, those are the goals of what we plan to do within our cast. And what I'd like to show you, and this is part of all my casts, is to provide you with references for things that I've touched upon and perhaps things that I should have or go into more detail on. So Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, episode 4, I think is a very valuable YouTube clip. Please check out his website. I provide the address there below it. And through that, he discusses Hidden Secrets of Money. In episode 4 specifically, he talks about the Federal Reserve System. He uses the U.S. as an example, but basically any country that has a Federal Reserve Bank or a central bank operates in this fashion, where essentially the government issues bonds, and those bonds are bought by banks, and the banks turn around to the Federal Reserve or to the central bank, and the central bank prints money to satisfy the buying of those bonds, and money is magically created. So it's good to understand how money works. So when you're talking about cryptocurrencies specifically, like Bitcoin or Litecoin or Vert or Monero or Dash or Decred, these are specifically currencies. So and it also gives you more knowledge when debating those pundits who say that Bitcoin has no value. I can go into many reasons why that's wrong, but first check out that Hidden Secrets of Money of episode 4, and then you can come to your own conclusions as to why I think that Bitcoin is more money than the actual money that we use today. And finally, the last reference I referred to is the Kaiser episode, the last episode for 2017, specifically in the time frame of 17 minutes to 22 minutes and 30 seconds, 5.5 minutes. She goes into a theory which I support. Her opinion is that the millennials are the new growing demographic. They are the number one demographic in democratic bodies around the world. And they are going to dictate things going forward. The baby boomers had that power, and they just lost it as of 2016, at least in the U.S. Perhaps that applies worldwide, but they are losing it over, and they will lose it in the short term, in the next several years or so. So what we have here is a situation where the baby boomers have the power, they are part of the establishment, and they basically burn the bridges behind them. So millennials can't really get into the opportunities that the baby boomers had back in the 60s, 70s, early 80s, and 90s for that matter. As an example, I'm not a baby boomer, but when I went to school at Georgia Tech, my parents spent roughly $100,000 for me to go to school, and that included room, board, tuition, pretty much everything. And that was from 1986 to 1991, or 1992, I forget. But my point is that that same $100,000 is now $200,000 to $300,000, if not more. I have no idea. All I do know is that student loans are going up, and it's harder and harder for students to finance their careers. And when they do get out of college, they're in massive debt. That fortunately didn't happen to me. And when I went to graduate school, I got a scholarship, which provided my tuition costs for the University of Michigan and the Ross Business School, and it was for $50,000. And that scholarship today is probably worth $150,000, if not more. It's just my guess. I didn't quantify it, but point is that those barriers to get what I achieved, even though I'm not even a baby boomer, are a lot harder for millennials to attain. And so now they have to make their own avenues of prosperity in terms of attaining wealth. And without a doubt, cryptocurrencies, crypto and digital assets, this whole crypto space is one of those avenues. So you're going to see a transfer of wealth through this as well as other means, but through the political process, I'm sure, in terms of tax reform and things like minimum wage increases, but crypto space being one of those avenues is my point. So please check out that Kaiser Report 5.5 minute spiel that Stacy Herbert goes into. I think it's pretty good. So again, I look forward to hearing you hearing from you relative to comments that you want to provide in this particular cast as well as future casts. I hope you subscribe to this channel. I hope you tune into our webpage, which is not yet up, but will be. And as I said, our cast will be better in terms of my speaking, in terms of video. But I'd like to leave you with this particular clip that I think goes back to Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, episode 4. And it's a V for Vendetta clip.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
So that's my opinion in terms of where cryptocurrencies are going. The people are going to be taking over. Blockchain provides that. And through decentralization, the power is transferred to the people and not to governments, specifically with currencies, but with other industries as well. So thanks for your time, and I hope that you tune in to our next cast, which will be roughly in the next 7 days. Thank you.